Hello and welcome to today's ASMR video. I want to talk a little bit to you about conspiracy mentality and what it means to me. I'm someone that believes in some conspiracy theories. For example, I do believe in the existence of Atlantis. In fact, I do believe that the Eye of Africa is where Atlantis once existed. But I'm open to new information coming my way. So, the answer to the question, what do you think about conspiracy theories, was answered in this way in the couple of articles that I read. One titled Bad Thinkers, and the other one titled something like How to Talk to a Conspiracy Theorist. The overall tone was as balanced as it could be, but they did use some derogative terms, and this is where the answer to this question comes in. Is it bad thinking from close-minded, unintellectual individuals who won't take facts as evidence? Who are simply just gullible and careless in their weird beliefs? So that was kind of the way that the articles that I read described conspiracy theorists. And here's what I have to say about that. So, in answer to the question, what do you think about conspiracy mentality? How about this? Are some of those who believe in conspiracy theories actually think intelligently for themselves and using their own intuition to find the truth? Perhaps it is the controlling opposers attempting to attack conspiracy theorists in order to keep us out of the know, so that we continue to accept being lied to. My belief is that conspiracy mentality can, and I repeat, can, be a type of intellectual thinking stemming from a motivation to find the truth by those who dare to question the authorities. However, my rule of thumb is that I listen to all perspectives and do not discredit something that appears to me to be fact. Instead, I see these both opposing forces as having some value, almost one and the same coin, just from different sides. Personally, I think we ought to stay kind and centered when exploring both sides of the same coin. So, to really see the point of view from where the other is coming from, I look at the person who wrote this article, for example, and just think about what it's like to be in their shoes. I have some loved ones who also discredit conspiracy theorists as just being very close-minded and weird and gullible. And I look into their experiences as much as I can if I know them. In this case, I didn't know this article writer, but I thought for a second about where they might be coming from and step into their shoes a little bit. And that helps because then I can start to trace it back to why they believe everything that is put right in front of them on the television screen or is part of the norm and accepted way or belief that a situation went down. Imagine this scenario. Perhaps we are in a heated argument with another person surrounding their opposing beliefs. Yeah? We are simply acting as mirrors for each other so that we may come back to balance and center once more. Here's an example of this from the article. So, you say that Oliver is gullible for believing his 9/11 conspiracy theory. He retorts that you are gullible for believing the conclusions of the 9/11 Commission. Same thing. Same mirror you put up, the same mirror gets given back to you. Okay? So, perhaps we can conclude that neither is right, yet both have value and truth. Both are pointing to the same thing, just in different ways, and we have to unpack how that is happening. So, there is a better answer than just one belief being wrong and the other being right. There's a better answer than that. We are being asked, and this is something I want to invite you to do with me now and to really contemplate and feel into. I'm sure you've had a conversation like this in your life where you're on one side of the fence and they're on the other. We can see this duality playing out in our reality right before our eyes all over the planet right now. So here's what I invite you to do. Perhaps in this situation, we are being asked, when we find ourselves questioning one or the other, to find a larger truth, to find a better answer. In this case, the answer could simply be that we have our own personal truth that we choose, regardless of the official objective truth, because, at the end of the day, who really knows the objective truth? Perhaps I would say only Source knows the official truth, only Source knows the objective truth, but there are ways that us as connected consciousness can figure it out. The thing I'd like to focus on for now, though, when you're thinking about this larger truth, I think it's very important to see from both sides of the opposing views to get to the middle path. So what I mean by this is, say you start seeing orbs in the air, yeah? And say this gets validated by the fact that you start going out into nature and taking pictures, and you can see the camera is showing you these orbs, yeah? And you start to wonder, what are these orbs? You know, they look a little bit like mandalas. They look very much like sacred geometry. They don't seem to be anything to do with what's going on in the camera lens. They just appear to me to be supernatural or some kind of phenomenon that I personally don't know how to describe. And then you take it to someone who wants to logically describe it, and they might start telling you that it's dust particles in the air and that it's to do with this thing, and it's to do with this thing, and it's to do with this thing. But, and here's the big but, you feel in your intuition that there is something much deeper to it than just it being a dust particle. A, because you've never seen dust particles like that before, maybe. And B, because there is a deeper feeling in your body that is telling you, well, it could be, but it doesn't feel like that's the truth. I haven't landed on it yet. Yeah? Intuition plays a huge role in this because, as we know, even facts can turn out to be proven wrong in the long run. I mean, we all believe the earth was flat once upon a time, and that was in a time that we were in, say, two-dimensional, almost three-dimensional world. Yeah, we didn't know that there was another dimension to things. We didn't know that we were living on a sphere. And now we're potentially coming into a higher dimension where we're actually able to see even more. But many people that aren't going through a spiritual awakening are skeptical about that because they don't see it themselves. And that's okay, because there's also something we can learn, and there is much we can learn from each other in this case. One of the things that came up for me whilst I was contemplating this dualistic kind of mentality that's going on surrounding many different topics right now is that we need to use, if we're going to use dualistic thinking, which is part of the world we live in, then we should use a dualistic technique. And here's how you do it. So, say you have one way of thinking about a situation or the world, and say your friend here has the opposite view to you, right? And I've been in this case before, and one of the things that really helps is knowing the person's heart. If you know the person's heart and you can feel it in the conversation, we're going to have a conversation. We're not going to have an argument. But if you are trying to prove a point, if you're trying to make the other person look stupid, we're going to have an argument. So the way that we carry out this conversation in order to find this bigger truth, this truer answer, we ought to look at the things that this person believes over here and choose all the things that make the most sense about it, and disregard all the things that don't make sense in some logical or intuitional way. Yeah, so there's certain conspiracy theories that I'll look into, and the majority of them ring true for me on some level. But some people that talk about these things go too far for me to follow, and I feel like it's then more of a game of trying to blame somebody else for their problems than it is taking responsibility, and it starts to get into more of a personal belief as opposed to a belief that's rooted in truth. So yeah, you want to go through all the things, maybe together with your friend, that are good and not so good about the things that you believe, and then you want to do the same for your friend here. You want to go through all the things that make the most sense about this thing that they believe. You know, you might start asking, well, where did this belief come from, and what evidence do you have to back it up? And then once you've asked those questions, you might be able to make a chart of things that sound most true and things that sound least true, or whatever you want to call it. And from there, this is where the good stuff comes in. You can actually maybe start to find from the more true things that both sides of the coin have to say for themselves. We can find something that's pointing to the truth more so than if we try and make this belief right and this belief wrong. or vice versa, because I don't know, there's definitely a collective truth that we believe about certain things, but then there's also branches off of that many people believe in this thing and many people don't believe in that thing, they believe in something else. So then it starts to come into objective truth and personal truth and ultimate truth. So when it comes to ultimate truth, I think there is a principle that we can follow, which is that there is an ultimate truth. To me, the source, the creator, is able to know all things, is able to be in all places, is able to see everything that goes on, and so is able to have an ultimate truth that includes so many vectors and so much information, logical, emotional, spiritual, all these levels. It includes all of it. And I think if we're ever going to get to know that stuff, I think it would be, and here's another conspiracy theory for you, through the process of reincarnation. I don't think we do get to know those things personally until, I don't know. I'll have to say, I don't know. Then we have personal truth. Personal truth has a lot to do with the unique person that you are, the experiences that you had when you grew up as a child, the people that you were surrounded by at school, college, university, work. It has a lot to do with the way that you see the world, the way that you've spent time with the world, or not for that matter. I think to segregate conspiracy theories as being wacky and weird thinkers is not doing us any good. And the same can be said for the many of us that believe in the way that the news presents things to us and the way that we as a collective have generally been taught about the affairs of history. I'd say that it's also not fruitful to attack those people as well who believe the general consensus about something, because that's the way that they were taught and that's the way that they want to believe. As I say, I think it comes down to personal preference. And the thing about personal preference is that yes, you may not be onto the ultimate objective truth, but what you are doing is probably attracting more like-minded people to you that may be thinking a similar way. And some of those people might be way too far on the spectrum for you to follow, and some of those people may be there to become the mirror for you that makes sure that you're not being overly judgmental towards other people that don't have the same views as you. The mirror phenomenon, I think, is always pointing us towards the fact that we need to find more of a centered, harmonious place to have these types of conversations, because the mirror never leads anywhere. It's infinite mirrors, you know. So yeah, I just want to ask you guys, why do you believe what you believe? Really have a think about that. The reason that I believe in Atlantis is because when I first came across this information, it came with so many synchronicities and just feelings of elation that something deeper was going on inside of my being. And this intuition of mine was telling me the reason this is coming through so interesting and intriguingly for you is because there's an element of truth in it. And I think not a single one of these people that don't believe in conspiracy theories, not a single one of them will tell you that there isn't some speck of truth somewhere amongst the conspiracy mentality. It's always stemming from some kind of truth. But the fact of the matter is that some things do get spun and do get over dramatized and get out of hand. The most important thing you can do when it comes to finding the truth about something, I think we do need to get answers and have conversations with other people surrounding these topics, and that's what I want to do with you today, because I know that some of you will have the complete opposite. Some of you will also be on a similar wavelength to me, and both are important, both are valuable. There's many different opinions out there, but I think it's for a reason. I think that we are helping each other to really work on our beliefs and get to the core roots of them and see why it is that we believe this certain thing over another. And no one's wrong necessarily. I do think that there are elements of truth to some beliefs more than others, but I don't think that those beliefs over there are wrong and my beliefs over here are right. I think it all just goes back to, why do we believe what we believe, A, and B, what is the bigger truth that we can all come to about this one thing? Let's use that technique of dualistic, like here's the good stuff, here's the not so good stuff. Pair them together with those opposing views, pair those together with the good and the bad, and see where that takes us. I really enjoy learning from people that have the same views as me and also opposing views to me, because there's things in them that I can see about who they are that I really like and I really appreciate about them, and I can think to myself, wow, this person has a character trait that I really admire. And knowing that about them and knowing also that they have different beliefs to me just makes it all the more intriguing to me to find out why they have those beliefs, to find out whether my beliefs might need a little bit of a touch up, you know? I don't grip tightly to any single one belief that I have. It's like a story in that it's always progressing, and we're always finding new information, and I'm okay with that. I don't need any of these things to be true because I don't use them to identify too deeply with who I am. You know, if it turned out that Atlantis wasn't real and it was just a fantasy story, well, I would say, what an amazing fantasy story that has lived for very many years. I'm glad that someone thought of that. You know, I don't mind. This needs to be right, otherwise I'm not validated. Or this needs to be right, otherwise I don't feel good about myself. That's when beliefs can become skewed and hurtful, but when a belief is just I'm going to talk to you about my belief, but I don't necessarily think or expect you to believe it, then we can have a conversation. So what do you think? I'd love to know. And keep it light, keep it calm, and keep it centered. Alright, I'll speak to you guys